Today I'm going to do a Pixyls sticker nonogram. I'll be doing puzzle 10 in the Mythological Creatures book. This is your warning to click away if you don't want to have the puzzle spoiled. You'll need an applicator or tweezers and a pencil to mark clues. I'll be using a pen so it's easier to see on camera. The first couple of pages in the book explain how to do nonograms, but if you're a visual person, I'll try to explain these rules as I come across them in the puzzle. You'll need your sticker sheet from the back of the book. The numbers on the sticker sheet match the small color guide at the top of the page. The grid you see has 15 rows and 15 columns of squares. You'll place stickers here to create an image using the colored clues along the top and left side of the puzzle. Each clue you see indicates what color, how many, and in what order each sticker will be for that row or column. I start every nonogram using tip number 1, which is examine the clues. Do some quick math to see if any of your rows or columns add up to 15, or whatever your grid length is if you're doing a different size puzzle. A line that adds up to 15 will have no white space, so you can copy the row or column as is. On my puzzle, the clues for row 6 add up to 15. You can mark off row 6 completely. Tip 4 is less abundant colors. Sometimes it's visually obvious where a color will go because it only shows up on the puzzle a couple of times. In this puzzle, it's the color black. Columns 3 and 5 both have a 2-square section of black. Black only shows up in rows 8 and 9, so the stickers will be where those rows and columns intersect. Mark off those black clues in each row and column. Now I'm checking to see if we can mark off any column clues from row 6. In column 7, that beige only shows up once, and it's already on the board, so I can cross that off. Tip number 2 is the one-way block. Column 1 starts with 2 light blues and has a single light blue as well. We have one single light blue already placed. At first glance, you don't know which one it is, but if you look at rows 1 through 5, there are no light blues. That means the light blue we placed has to be the start of column 1 and can only go one way, down. So place the blue and mark off the clue. Mark it off in row 7 as well. Since we know column 1 starts with those 2 light blues, we can block off all the spaces above them as empty white space. Row 1 only has brown in it. We can put a white space for any column that doesn't start with brown. I'm marking off columns 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. In row 8, our 2 black clues have an orange between them. There are 2 empty spaces in front of the black for 2 maroons that start the row. Mark both clues off the board. Row 9 also has an orange between the 2 blacks. Column 5 starts with a maroon, so I can put a white space in rows 1, 2, and 3 because they don't have any maroons. That leaves 2 open spaces in column 5 before the orange to place those. Once we do that, we can fill in the second orange in the remaining space. And mark off the clues. Column 4, same thing with maroon. Put a white space in rows 2 and 3, which leaves 2 spaces to place your maroons. Mark off the maroon and the single orange that's already in place. We also know in column 4 that the 2 orange clues are separated by a beige. It has to go in the middle here with the 3rd orange below. Place and mark them off. In row 9, our first black square is preceded by 2 single blues. We can place those now. Mark those off. We can mark off some clues in column 1 that we've already placed. Column 2 has 2 dark blues. I know that the dark blue that's placed is the second dark blue because there are 2 maroons above it. We can place that second dark blue now. In column 3, since we have our black and a maroon placed, I know that the empty white has to be our single orange. and then we'll be able to finish the group of 2 maroons above it. Above the maroon are 2 beiges. We can mark off a white space in row 2 since that row has no beige. That leaves 2 open spaces in column 3 to place the beige. Mark it off. Column 2 starts with 2 beige. We can mark off row 2 because it has no beige. In row 7, I'm marking off some clues we've already placed. I can place the second orange now. Looking up column 6, I have 3 maroons and 3 oranges. 2 of those clues are already placed, which is tip number 2 again. Maroon has to go up, and you can block off the rest of the column. And orange has to go down. Be sure to mark off both colors. We can finish column 6 while we're here. We have 6 clues left and 6 open spaces. Mark off the column as complete. Row 2 will be brown only, so I'm marking off all of the columns that start with beige. Tip number 3, total available space. This tip is tricky, but satisfying once you understand it. In column 9, there's a large group of 6 browns. We've only placed 1, but we can narrow it down a little more. We know that there are 8 clues below that group of 6. Using my finger, I'm blocking off the bottom 8 squares. The bottom of the column is the absolute lowest places they could go, and it's impossible for the group of 6 brown to be there. With my finger covering those, I see that leaves 7 spaces open. The brown could start at the very top, or it could start 1 space down from the top, but either way, rows 2 through 6 will still have a brown. Still confused? Take 2 colored pencils. Count down and mark with a dot 6 squares from the top of the row. With the other color, count up 6 from your finger and dot each square. Your squares with 2 dots in them are guaranteed to be brown. Row 2 is the same tip but on a smaller scale. We've placed 1 brown. We know the second will either be just before or just after, leaving the square in column 7 as a guaranteed white space. Column 7 starts with a group of 2 brown. That white space we just marked in row 2 means column 7 can't start in row 1 either, so block it off. Going back to tip number 4, less abundant colors. Column 7 has 2 light blues left. Rows 8 and 10 are the only rows that have light blue left. So both blues will go where they intersect. Once those blues are down, the maroon between them can also be placed. And mark off the clues. There is a maroon before the first light blue. Since we've placed the beige, we know it has to go in the only remaining space between them. And mark it off. Looking back at row 8, I'm marking off the single orange that I've already placed. The light blues are a group of 2. I can now place the other one. Row 9, same thing. I'm marking off clues I've already placed. I have the first of my 3 maroons, so I can place the other 2. And mark it off. In row 10, I'm marking off the single brown. Row 3 starts with a single beige. I've placed that already, so I can block off the white space before it. In row 4, I can finish the group of 2 beige that start the row. In row 5, I can mark off the group of 4 maroon and place the single beige that starts the row. Mark it off in the row and in column 2. Staying with row 5, the next clues are 2 single browns. When 2 clues of the same color are next to each other, they must be separated by a white space. So technically, these 2 browns take up 3 spaces. I know I need at least 5 squares at the end of the row for the other clues. If I cover 5 squares at the end of the row, then I can see that the only available spot for the white space is column 8. Column 7 will be the other brown. And mark them off. Row 5 needs a single beige next, and it has to come before the brown that's already placed. If I look up at column 7, there are no beiges left, so I can mark a white space there. Place beige in column 8. Column 9 will be the other brown, and mark both clues off. Column 7 starts with 2 browns. I have one placed and only one spot open for the other. Place that and mark it off. I can finish the rest of the column because there are 5 clues left and 5 spaces open. Cross off the whole column. Column 9 has a group of 2 dark blues. If I look across the rows, only rows 7, 8, and 10 have dark blue. I can't place the dark blue in row 10 because it would be isolated, and column 9 needs a group of 2, so they'll go in rows 7 and 8. The remaining dark blue will go where column 8 and row 10 intersect, and mark them off. Now we can finish the group of brown in column 9. That finishes row 1, so block off the remaining white spaces. In column 8, we can mark off the beige. We have 2 open spaces above it for the 2 brown. Continuing down, we can also fill in the second maroon of the group of 2. Mark off the finished clues. In column 10, we can place the second beige, mark off the brown, and block off the white space at the top of the column. We have 8 spaces left and 8 clues left, so we can complete the column. In row 11, we can mark off the second maroon. A brown precedes it, so we know it's not the first maroon that starts the row. Since we've now placed a brown, we can place the second of that group of 2 and mark it off. In column 1, our next clue to place will be a beige. We can mark off rows 10 and 11 because they don't have beige in them. We can mark off row 12 because even though it has a beige, the beige in that row is towards the end. Row 13 doesn't have beige either, leaving 2 spaces for our 2 clues. Mark off column 1, and with that, now we can place the second and third orange in row 15, and mark it off. We can place the second beige that starts row 14. We can place the other beige in the second group of 2, mark it off. Now we can place the second orange next to that. Between those 2 beiges are 2 open spaces where we can place a single orange and brown. In column 3, we can mark off the bottom 2 oranges. Column 4 has 1 clue left, a group of 3 brown. Since we have 1 brown placed, we know that the highest that group can go is up to row 12. It can't be in row 11, so we can block off that space. My browns could either go 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. Either way, this square is a brown, so we can fill that in. In row 13, I have 2 sets of browns. My second set of brown is only 1 square, so I can cross that off. I know that the orange between them is going to be a group of 4. It could start here and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Or it could start here and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Either way, this one will be orange. In row 9, our group of 3 maroons is followed by 3 brown. 1 is already placed, so 2 and 3 will follow. And cross it off. Row 12 has 2 groups of browns. I can mark off the single brown. Based on where the remaining brown could go, I know it can't be in columns 2, 3, or 4, so block those off. Column 14 starts with 3 beige. I only have 3 spots open before the maroon, so they will go there. Cross that off and place the second maroon. Row 7, we've placed the dark blue. Next to it is 2 beiges. We've already placed 1, so we can place the other. Row 7 ends with 2 maroons. We can see that there are no maroons in column 15, so we can block that off, and we can fill in the missing maroon. and place the remaining brown to finish that row. And mark it off. Looking up at row 3, I can mark off the 3 browns. I have 1 beige placed, so if I count out the possible spots for the other 2, I know it won't reach column 11. I can block it off. When I count out the possible places for those 2 beige, there will be a beige in column 13 either way. Looking up column 13, I have placed the beginning and end of the group of 4 beige so I can fill those in. Mark it and the maroon off. In column 12, I know the beige that is placed is part of the group of 3 that starts the row. Since it butts up to a brown that's already placed, I can count up and fill in the missing 2. Block off the remaining space and mark off the clue. Row 3, I can finish the beige and complete the row. Row 2 finished, mark it off. In row 4, the beige is a group of 4. I know the last beige has to be in the front, so we have room for the single brown at the end. Place both of those. In column 15, I'm marking off the completed beige and single browns. Between the browns is a beige that we can place. The beginning of row 10 has 2 empty spaces. We need to place 2 clues before the orange, so maroon and brown will go there. Then we can place the second orange. In row 12, I have 2 groups of brown. Between them needs to be 2 orange. I only have space for 2, so they'll go there. Now I can place the third brown. In column 5, after the black, we can mark off the single orange. We finish the group of 3 brown and then place the final orange, finishing the column. In column 4, we can finish the group of 3 brown, which completes the column. In row 13, we've placed the starting 2 browns, so we can block off the first white spaces. We'll add the fourth orange. In row 15, we can mark off the first single brown, single orange, next brown, single orange, and block off a white space to separate the 2 orange clues. In column 8, we can place the single brown between the already placed blue and oranges. That will complete the column. In column 9, we can mark off the dark blue and orange. We have 2 open spaces for the group of 2 brown. In column 11, we can mark off the single beige and block off a white space to separate the 2 beige clues. Then, we can place the last beige in the group of 3. After that, we can place the second brown. We have 5 open spaces and 5 clues left, so transfer those down and complete the column. In column 13, we can mark off our single browns. In between them has to be a beige. We have 5 oranges left, but 6 spaces open. However, row 10 has no oranges left. We can block out row 10. That leaves 5 spaces for our 5 clues. Mark it off and complete the column. In row 15, we can mark off the group of 3 orange. There's nothing between the 2 sets of orange clues, so we can block off the white space between them. Row 11, mark off the 3 browns, and we can place the last orange. In row 8, mark off the complete brown and beige. In row 10, mark off the group of 3 brown. We're left with 2 brown to place. Based on where they could go, we know one of them has to be in column 14. In column 14, that brown is a group of 2. We've completed the maroon before it, so we know brown can't be in row 8. We can block it off. That leaves 2 spots open in row 8 for the last 2 clues. Complete the row. In row 12, we can mark off the single beige. We've started the orange, so we can place the remaining 2. We can block off the last space as white space and complete the row. We can finish row 13 as well with 2 more orange. Row 14, we can add the brown in the middle and finish the orange. Column 2 is completed, just block off the final white space. Row 11 has 1 spot open for the remaining maroon, which will complete column 3. In column 13, mark off the single brown and 4 oranges. We can block off the 2 white spaces between them. That leaves a single brown to place at the bottom to finish the column. In column 14, we can mark off the 2 oranges. In column 15, we can add the last orange. Row 5 is complete. Row 9 is also complete, but block off the last square as white space. Row 10, we can add the last brown to complete the row. In column 14, we can finish the group of 2 browns. Row 15 is complete, block off the white spaces. Column 15 is complete now, block off the white spaces. Row 14, we can add the last brown to complete the row and column. Puzzle complete. What do you think?